Welcome to Challenger, the End of the Rainbow, the talkback episode where we just sort of go over our thoughts on the past, the future, our characters, the NPCs, everything, anything that comes to mind that we want to gab about. So I'm going to start us off by just talking about Halley's in general. Something that I was talking about off camera between this and the last, is that Halley's is largely an examination of humanity. And that, I think, has come through in some ways. The way that we look at the changes that immortality makes in people, the changes that power makes in people, how one can have these things and still be a good person, how one can have these things and become a bad person, things like that. And of course, the next chapter is centered around me asking a question that I personally, as Sera, want to know, which is humanity worthy? And so I'm looking forward to the way that will pan out, and what interesting answers we will get from the different PCs and NPCs, and how that will collate into some sort of gel of an opinion. What do you guys have? What's on your minds?
Well, right now it's what is worthy. What does that even mean?
That's a good question.
Mm-hmm. That's going to be a really fun thing to look at. Yeah.
Yeah. To whom are we worthy?
Mm-hmm.
I think the other thing that's interesting to think about is even the very existence of the question, and who are we worthy to?
Right.
To ourselves? Are we worthy to you? What's the qualifications in that moral judgment,
Mm-hmm.
right? And does passing that judgment then make you, does the idea that you, the very idea that you have the ability to determine whether any life is worthy or not disqualify you from being worthy?
Mm-hmm.
Is a question even of itself, an esoteric one, a meta one, if you will.
And I know, like, all of our characters have a very different grasp on, like, how to move through reality. So I bet you we all have different answers to that question.
Yeah.
Yeah, this series has very quickly turned into Sera activating the hyper niche part of David that at 17 and 18 thought a philosophy professor would be nice.
Fun fact, when I was in high school, my plan was to become a theology professor.
Sera lore.
Yeah.
Hey, when I was
Sera lore.
when I was like 7 years old, I grew up in the church, and I saw this traveling evangelical, and I was like, I want to do that because I wanted to travel. And then everybody for the next like 10 years would not stop telling me how much I was going to be a preacher. And I was like, oh, wait, you got the wrong priority from that. I just want to go. I just want to leave this place for a while at a time.
No, I want to be a carny.
Yeah.
Real carny energy from David Robles. Love it.
100%. That's what Halfthor is. He goes everywhere.
He's a carny.
Yeah.
I'm really looking forward to the 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 idea of like living despite this bullshit hanging over our heads, especially for Ida, something that it's like, okay, we're supposedly going to be tasked with this monumental thing, but kind of fuck that. Like, we also have to just live our lives. Like, it's not, yeah. And I think Ida is going to, again, conversations that we've been having continuously, that I've been having continuously about Ida and about their growth is, you know, they've grown up. They've gone from being a child to being a fully rounded out human, about and self-realized and all that. And I really think the end of this, the end of Challenger, I had mentioned that, you know, Ida was gone for most of Challenger, and part of that was because they felt so other from even they felt so isolated and other from their family, from the thing that's supposed to make them special, that, you know, having like as lovely as much as they love Halfthor and Yelena, watching that relationship was harmful for them, because all it did was shine a light on how they were broken and how they were wrong. And so they had to separate for their own well-being and come to terms with the fact of their asexuality and their aromanticism, which I was joking with Sera. I wasn't even joking with Sera. I was laughing with Sera about this, where, so Ida, it's well known, but to everybody who's watching now, if you don't know already, Ida was a big catalyst to me realizing that I'm a trans man. That was a huge moment. That was a huge light for me. The only difference is that I am aggressively not asexual or aromantic. So while I have this in common with Ida, I then see this part of Ida that I find tragic, where I'm now having to figure out how to play Ida as like, Ida's like, no, I'm not tragic. I'm not sad. It's okay. Like, I just have to get used to not being this way. It's another level of that. So I'm really looking forward to Heaven's Eye to take that time to like really play Ida fully in their confidence and in their power of like, I'm good. I'm so good. And that, like, so that will help them have a clear view on what worth is, what they think worth is. So yeah, that's what I'm excited for Ida.
Yeah, going into the future is gonna be crazy. Gonna be wild. It's gonna be interesting. Very interesting.
Okay. But how many kids?
Exactly. What are their names? Let's go. Come on.
MASH right now.
Whoa.
I like the idea of twins.
Yeah. Pitch that, I think.
Ooh.
Little Gemini babies.
How old are they going to be when we start the new chapter?
I think I did the math wrong. I was thinking they would be like around 18 to 20, and I think I did it to about 15. So if Sarah wants to hold me to that, I think 15 makes sense. But my thought process was that they would be like adults ready to make their own choice if they become nanobotted, because from the way you described it, it sounds like the the bots will reproduce themselves in the womb, in utero. But we'll see what happens with that as well, right?
So to divert back to Belgrade, that was specifically a question that Yelena asked to Gilgamesh. You cannot reproduce empowered children. They can only be empowered by the Starfall.
The only reason that Yeshua is because he was
because he was
in utero when Mary was.
So then that's just my misunderstanding. Well, that's even better. Right, and then they
Yeah.
can
Could he
choose the
miracle
next.
y'all and make you have powered babies?
Well, I
They
would say
wouldn't
that
want that.
that's
That's
what they
fair.
want. They
There you
want to
go.
turn it off on
Look
themselves
at
eventually.
it. Yeah, that's a bad idea, but we gotta ask,
Um,
right? We gotta build the world.
yeah, that's what's cool about doing this story, though, right? That was the thing we talked about in Belgrade, real time a year ago
Hmm.
plus,
Mhm.
right? Um, and is like that's the beautiful thing about telling these long term stories, and the thing that I love about are these long form stories, right? And the beautiful thing I love about character development is like we planted that seed a long time ago, and as opposed to just like abandoning it, which I'm not going to judge anybody's artistic choices or whatever, right? But like, or even just leaving it in the past with that like question. I prefer the method of like, and then it comes back, and it's like
Mhm.
waves, right? Not everything's linear. Not everything's like importance is always high because it's not the way it is with people. That's not the way life develops.
Yeah. So obviously this comes to like player consent and whatever. We had very much briefly, very briefly discussed it before it was ever introduced at the table. But I wanted to play that off like it wasn't even a thought in her mind. Like there was no possibility that that's what was at the forefront when she's like, "It's time," and she's like, "Well, I guess we could go. It's fine. I guess we did
Yeah.
just get here, but whatever."
And I
Yeah.
think that like belies a little bit too that it's like it's the thing, it's the first thing that Hathor that this like life took from him, and the thing that it made him realize he fucked up. And that he felt like the most guilty for. So it feels apropos and somewhat poetic to be like this is to me it was a way of marking his growth as well.
Hmm.
Of I can trust myself enough with this responsibility. This is the real ultimate responsibility. Um, all that other stuff is what it is, but like kind of like what Anush did in his closet, right? Like Ida, Anush, Hurrit, Yelena, like that's my real priority. That's my like that's the first circle of protection.
Hmm.
And now our twins.
Yeah. Little ones. So are there any like favorite standout moments from any of the episodes or
Dio and Halfdor giving it to Gilgamesh in the bar
Was
was
so fun.
That was fantastic. I'll tell you my favorite moment. It's right here.
oh
I
no screen dart.
We'll put it.
Oh,
I'll put it in the actual. I'll share it. We've got
Yeah.
oh,
super. You surprised. That was all Courtney. Like
I
Yeah.
love that
I'll
moment.
ask the artist for permission just to see if we can put it up here. If not, get in the Discord. It'll be in the Discord.
yes, yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes. They will be shared. But we
Yes.
love Pagan.
Yeah.
I
Or
yes, I
super
definitely
pagan.
loved every moment with Pagan. He's such a sweetheart and such a lovable
Hmm.
NPC. Would burn the world down for that man.
Hmm.
I liked the speaking of other like heroic moments, the when the teacher turns into Jenny Flame, I guess.
Mhm.
Hmm.
Mm.
That was so cool because I think it has this like meta analysis of like also that's the moment in our story where this stopped being Sarah has to sort of tread lightly and think about right like real historical implications, and Sarah took like full ownership of the narrative in a
Mhm.
way that you didn't necessarily like to your own limitations and restrictions, right? Didn't
Okay.
necessarily have.
Hmm.
And I like so there's like a cool moment in the way that you described it, right? Was great. Like it's just so good all the way around because the way that you narrated it in that like very Sarah style of this is my pre-written like I got this, I
Yeah.
nailed this, as well as the like the sort of metaphorical thing of taking ownership of the story. And then like I was really I would be very honest, like I was very resigned that like they were gonna die. So to me personally, it felt really cool to like, yes, yes.
Yeah. as I mean, again, I was 6 months old when Challenger happened, but it was something that echoed throughout my childhood. Like, it was something that had a direct impact
I mean, I think I'm like
on,
7 years younger than you, and I still remember it being talked about so much.
yeah,
So I can't even
my
imagine that like extra bit.
one of my best friends was born 3 days before it happened. So,
Mhm.
like, that is something that is always tied to, for her, it's like Challenger is tied to her in her mind. And yeah, so being able to change that is a very cathartic thing. And with the exception of losing My Chemical Romance, I'm so glad that 9/11 didn't happen.
Yeah. Sorry
I
about
mean,
you.
It was
I'm curious what trauma triggered Gerard Way,
Gerard
because
Way.
something else had to
Probably
happen.
meeting his jackass cousin Joe Rogan.
What?
there you go.
Yeah, they're
That's a
cousins.
They're
real
related?
that's a real thing. They are.
Gross.
I didn't know
Sorry. I'm
that.
so sorry, Gerard Way.
They're real life, like I think it's cousins, if I remember right. But like second cousins or something. It's like some by marriage or something like that. But they're technically legally related.
Mm.
Lee.
Yeah.
Pivoting back to the Challenger. Oh,
Yeah.
sorry.
No, go on.
My
I love
Challenger
that.
romance? That's what
My
inspired them.
Challenger. That's what inspired them. Get in the comments.
Get in the comments.
But no, it was the like the solidification that like these powers, these abilities come from a need, right? They're
Mhm.
born of like a want. They're activated solely based on like the human desire to survive,
Right.
or to like I don't know, express some other like higher need whenever they come out. And I think that was like a beautiful sentiment of like, hey, no matter how much like we feel about these things, no matter like the picture that we've painted about what these abilities do to us and what they take away from us, they are born from some sort of necessity and want to have.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah. That was, I mean, that was a big part. Like when we started, I just said, "What power do you want to have?" But um, it worked out well that these powers came from the needs or desires or secret uh, structures of the people there, and that just carried over into Challenger, and I love that. Challenger itself, like because I was 12, uh, and I was in school, and I've told you guys all this, but I haven't told the audience all this. Um, I was in school, and they had a special satellite feed to go to schools that showed the whole launch, so we saw everything. Everything. I was in the library. They had us brought all in. They had a big TV up. We were watching it, and yeah, it was a pivotal moment in my early life for sure, as it was for many children because of that. Um, and so when I found out that uh, this was during a Halley's Comet year, and B, they were studying Halley's Comet, they were going to study it, I was like, oh, this has to be what I do. Like I turned away from Chernobyl completely at that point,
Oh,
because Chernobyl was also a possibility.
Oh, I'm
Um,
super glad you didn't choose that.
For unrelated reasons,
For
guys.
unrelated
Stick to the
reasons. No,
channel.
nothing to see here.
Alternate
I
reality
didn't know that was on
spin-off.
the table. I need to pay attention more.
Whoa.
Oh my god, that would have been so crazy. Sorry.
it would have been. But no, I had to go with
Uh,
Challenger because it meant so much to me, and because it connected to Halley's Comet so particularly.
mhm.
And being able to save those astronauts. Like I did my best not to show it, but it moved me. It did,
Mhm.
because like I was 12, and I was so happy about this teacher going up into space, and we were going to learn from her while she was in space. We were going to get to see all the cool stuff, and they all died, and it was so so much of a shock to my young little system that getting to save those astronauts was amazing, and getting to have that be a pivotal moment in the relationship of, well, in a lot of relationships, the relationship of the world with meta people, the relationship of me with the narrative. Uh, just it all changed in that moment, and I really, like, I had a good time with it. I'll just say I had a really good time with the saving of those astronauts. Anyway, I'm gonna
Wow,
stop.
beautiful.
Yeah, I mean, just the nature of Yelena being who Yelena is, and I guess by extension, parts of myself, they meant a lot to her. And like the whole process of knowing that these people are going to go up into this and knowing ultimately what was going to happen to them, like it was tearing her apart in ways that, like, I think because of, like, just to protect herself, she became a little bit more, she grew up a little bit. Yelena's been kind of a very emotional person in, like, very outward ways, but she had to really, like, rein it in. But the there was a moment, and it never came up, and I don't this is something that Yelena will never admit out loud to anybody. After the conversation she had with Anush in her office about, "Hey, why don't we jumpstart their empowerment?" She had a dark thought about the families that were gonna be left behind if the empowerment happened, and she's like, "Well, what, like, we're not telling them they're everything's gonna happen, but they have children, they have families." And, like, she saw how much, like, everything it happened very differently for Hathor, but him having to leave his family behind in one way or another, like, it she had a dark, dark moment, and that's why she kinda had to shut herself off for the rest of the day and kinda be by herself.
Mm.
So, there was that dark allure to some of Anush's more eccentric scientific
Visionary.
That
exploration.
was
Yeah.
that was probably one of my favorite moments
Yeah,
in
it was a
like
good
the
one.
season. It was like just to be like wholly like shut down and to have to be like, okay, adapt. Like there's no time to change whatever fucking plan I had. Like that was a key part of it. And I was just like, okay, I think in this moment he can accept it. I think there are like he trusts this person. Like this is not somebody trying to fuck him over or like do something to her own agenda. It was like a true moment of like connection and trust. I thought that was really
Mhm.
interesting.
Mhm.
Um
There's had a lot
Also
of really good moments. Yeah, like
getting
that.
just fucking kidnapped and revealing Jesus, that was awesome.
Revealing Jesus was probably my favorite moment. The I could, like, physically, I could not. The moment I had it, obviously, we all had a suspicion of who was in there with Anush before, right? We've long heralded the second coming, um, to get a little theological.
Mhm.
Um, and so the moment Sarah says very offhandedly, it was very sly. I'll give Sarah this credit. He's a young Middle Eastern man. My brain didn't even process it because I was busy thinking at that point. I was already busy thinking, how am I gonna die? How is Sarah gonna kill Haftor? And I didn't process it for like a second, and then you see my face so very clearly go.
Yeah.
And it was, yeah, that was really cool. And I think the just to stay on Anush a little bit, I really liked that moment between Anush and Hafthor on the moment, or on the boat, where finally it took 1,000 fucking years, but their interests were finally fully aligned, and it took like two sentences to patch over. And it was so good. It was very like, yes, yes, that's it. And I think it's like really cool because it's like one of those things where it's like, don't cross the streams. And then like it happened and it was fine. And we haven't tried to take over the world yet together, nor have we too much upset our siblings and wife.
It's really interesting. We had this conversation a little bit off screen, but like this is like we are finally like have that the same puzzle pieces on the board of like what we think of as like morality and like why we are here and yeah, like yada yada yada. But like the way we came to those puzzle pieces were very different. Like
Yeah.
at some point, like I would have like one in the upper left hand corner and you would have one in like the lower right hand corner. But like I think this was a beautiful moment to show that like we are working on like the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah. It's always been really hard to play against Anush as Hathor because it's interesting, right? Because it's like even though they have sort of in the end game, like if you were doing a Venn diagram of their priorities, if you will, right?
Mhm.
There's maybe two or three things on each individual circle, and so many of them are similar, right?
Mhm.
It's when you get into the specifics, and again, like I guess we just won't stop talking about religion in this way, right? It's like similar to that religious thing of like, yeah, Catholics and non-denominational Christians are technically both Christians and want the same thing and believe in the same thing, but the way they go about it is so fucking different. It is on site between those two groups of people in various parts of the world forever, apparently. Um, we're doing the after thing. Um, so the like it was really cool for finally like, hey, you know what? All that other extra shit, all that like, is it blood? Is it body? Is it magic? Is it real?
Mhm.
Is it metaphor? Is it whatever? All that doesn't matter. The end goal is we protect the family, we get rid of this powers, and we protect humanity, right? And like that's kind of if you boiled it down, like both of their same three priorities. We both hate these powers. We both hate eternity. We both think it's unnatural, right? In this in different ways, right? But and we both view it
Well,
as a prison.
well, it's so easy to be hypercritical of somebody you're very similar towards.
Oh yeah.
There there have been like moments where I've been like musing about, oh my gosh, like this show, this is amazing. Like, and I'll admit, like I daydream, okay, but like one of the scenes I've thought about for a while is like Hathor and Anoush having a conversation, and Anoush being like, look, yada yada yada, we both hate ourselves more than we love or hate other people, and like they're yeah, I think in a way like us as like a group, like we are the like a very like beautiful painting of like humanity, and we showcase like very different worldviews and also the ability to come together and work on something. So, fuck those aliens, right? Maybe they had a good idea.
Yeah. I want to talk
You're
about Josh
mute,
for a
David.
second, if that's okay. Uh, Josh was like I wasn't gonna do him, and then
The
and
power of
then
bullying, friends.
just like it just
Power
came
of
up
peer pressure.
over and
This was an
over,
80s.
and I was like, you know what? I mean, I am an atheist. I uh, have also done a great deal of lay study into biblical scholarship, so I know a thing or two, and I was able to sort of take that ridiculous waste of my life and put that into a character that would sort of fit the myths and still make sense. And I had to have a way, of course, for him to have survived this long without being known, and so came up with the whole 3 days and memory loss thing and stuff like that. But it was fun for sure to play Jesus as just a guy. There's this guy who
I
got these
loved him.
powers and was told by his mom that he had a destiny, and he tried and it totally turned on him, and but he's just such a good guy that he just kept trying. And
That's the reason that Josh is like such a like stands out so differently in this. He's the one NPC with mommy issues instead of daddy issues.
Correct.
That's why he's much more wholesome.
yeah.
Love Josh. Eli
Yeah,
loves
I
Josh.
loved Josh.
Dionysus
Yeah.
hated Josh. Didn't hate Josh. Had beef. Unnecessary beef. I really enjoyed playing Dionysus. And thank you guys for letting me indulging me in that. It was really interesting to play somebody so cynical and angry who did not show it. But that he was fueled by that. It's come up a few times in the last few days, but 100% fueled by spite. Like, he was living as a fuck you to a lot of people. And a lot of anger there. It's really interesting because like this season wasn't built for connection building, which is fine because it's like the spy thriller. It's totally fine that no one really connected with Dionysus, but there were parts that were there were parts built into him to connect to all of you. Like and Dionysus and Hathor did kind of connect on their mutual just dislike of Gilgamesh, but there's also I built into Dionysus in mythology. His wife was Ariadne, so and Ariadne was mortal. So in this, he was married, and he was the only one that got caught in the stars. She didn't get caught. So he became immortal. She was immortal. She died. And he had a lot of anger about that. And then his way of coping was vice and sex, drugs, and rock and roll. But he was profoundly in love with this person and true for until he found the ocean, until he found Mirwine. And even that, it was like, I think that I made a comment, like every night he says goodnight to the stars and every morning he said good morning to the sea. Like, he had two great loves in his life, which was very sweet. It was a sweet part of Dionysus that he didn't let anybody else see except for perhaps Hermes. But yeah, and then like the paganism and that part of it, that connection with Yelena and all that, and then like this kind of distrust of humanity with Anush. Like, there was something of that with him. And we've talked about it. I know that so Dio has separated himself because he wants nothing to do with any of it anymore. Humanity or empowered, metas or whatever. He is on a registry and he could not give a fucking care. But as soon as he gets wind of the opportunity to turn it off, he is telling Mirwine and saying, I need to do this. I love you, but I need to do this. Going to Hathor, saying, cut the feed, and going to be with Ariadne. And because if he was asked, is humanity worthy, it would be a resounding no, burn it to the ground.
Right.
Which is interesting. Like, that's an interesting part of like of all these empowered people. Like, there's an old guard, and he's of this old guard that kind of needs to go. Like, that's, there's a little bit of a, hey, American politics. There is a generation of people who probably don't need to be part of the conversation, and that's Dionysus. He's like, I fully understand. Like, I'm out. Like, I'm good. So, love him. He's amazing. Send lots of Dionysus love. Wife guy, party guy, ready to go. So, but I loved him. And I'm glad to have Ida back.
I also loved him, and I loved the switch from Dio to Ida because it just made like what Dio did in the story so much more profound. There is an ease, like it's easy for an audience to connect to characters when they only see their point of view. And with an ensemble show like this, we have been following the same people that we have like adopted in, who have like seen the world and our view and like the goal from only our perspectives. And Dio really provided an outside look on that and showed how we interact with new people when they stick around. And I think it was so fucking important to just like it showcase how strong of a bond that us four have. Because we just let fucking Dio go the fuck away. We did not chase him. Like, even though he did have those aspects to connect with all of us, his viewpoint is no, burn it to the ground. I don't like humanity. And in a way, all four of us like have fought so hard to connect to our humanity and to keep it like that.
To hold on to it. That for sure has been, I mean, like, that's like almost stated Yelena's essential sort of.
It's like her core tenet. Like, she has held on to it to her detriment in some cases, I think.
And it's probably the only reason Half-Lord didn't go bad. I think of an eternity of time, Half-Lord. That's an interesting way to look at Dio, right? And not just as like a tool of the story or whatever, but like as a if the common thread that Hathor, Anoush, and Dio have in common is their like loathing of this and this like need for it to end and feeling like it's a prison, it's a really interesting way to look at those three things, right? Which is like sort of a washing of the hands. I did what I could. It didn't turn out well, so fuck it all. A like turning into yourself and rotting in the bed, and a I just need to be so busy, I'm exhausted and can't think of it. And the like exhaustion of my mind and the exhaustion of activity will stop me from being able to dwell on the like worst parts of this reality. And I think that that's like a common way that people respond to trauma. Those are three very common ways that people can see themselves in the way of trauma, right?
Exactly. All the different coping mechanisms are clearly.
And then Yelena's the one, ironically, who went to therapy and is like using their trauma to fuel
it's
their
ironic because
goodwill.
I've never been.
I wasn't going to put that out on the internet. Remember, I didn't put that out. To be clear, I did not put that out.
So we can all get therapy.
BetterHelp, please. BetterHelp. Courtney can be your spokesperson for Streaming Rainbow.
Or just give us money so we can buy it ourselves.
Yeah, actually, preferably just give us money because BetterHelp has issues. But okay.
Oh no, sorry. I didn't know that.
No, it's all good. It's fine. They're
talk about it
not BetterHelp, but another
just get Courtney therapy.
Online therapy connection.
We guys just therapy.
We're starting a Kickstarter.
Yeah. So I don't know, like I want to tie in a couple of different things, like Yelena. And so Yelena grew up as a pagan woman, constantly being told you're not part of our society in a way that we want you to be part of our society, and therefore bad. But like learning through her grandmother and her mother, it's like we are who we are and we have what we have to give, and we're going to give all of ourselves, and it's regardless of what everybody else thinks, we are good. And like that rings in every part of her being, and that's, I don't know, that's a core thing for Yelena. And when it comes to Josh, the perception outwardly of who Josh is, or Jesus, sounds weird to call him Jesus. I don't like it. Yelena doesn't like it. But he was the poster child of everything that tormented her for her entirety. So when he showed up, it was very much I will treat you with kindness. You will be offered everything that I have ever given to anybody. I will put this for you because that's what you deserve. But she was very reserved with him to begin with. Like, he represented a lot of her, the pain that she carried. Like, he was very representative of that. And then to find out that he himself was so opposed to it, it really put her on her back foot for a little bit, and she had to reevaluate how she thought about him.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if they will ever be BFFs, but he always has an invite to dinner. So, you know, I don't know. It was interesting. I love that little witch.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, so fun fact, guys, we filmed these before, well, in advance of before they're released. I've just finished editing episode 2, and my favorite moment is Hild putting a fucking bullet in Fillmore's face.
Nice one.
That was favorite DM moment though, had to be it's so easy sometimes, I think, particularly in uh the AP part of this, right? The like or the improv part of it, I should say. To like overdo it. That's like a conversation I've had with a lot of performers of like, hey, some point you got to turn the faucet off on a moment. And Sera gave us one great big splash and turned that faucet right off. I loved the like, because I love the like what it tells you about the character Fillmore too, right? Which is that he was not some BBEG, he was not some true believer, he was just a guy with petty differences and got the right check and got his chance to get his little fucking vindictive fuck you back.
Mm-hmm.
And that, like, I thought that was so like right, the it's the thing I'm so bad at, right? But is being able to let your white space on the page tell more of the story. And Sarah did that in a way that, like, I, as a storyteller across any media, like, mad respect for the restraint in that moment and the like impact of one word.
Yeah. Arguably, all of that made him so much worse because
Yeah,
it meant nothing, and he just
he's just a
it
dick.
meant nothing, and he just
And
did
that's
it.
the way it
And
is sometimes. Some people are just a dick with out for a check.
awful.
As a player, I mad props to Sarah for making the Arm of St. George nothing. Just to piss off
Yeah.
David and Cam. I love
Like,
that it's
let's talk
like,
more
and
about
now they're dead.
That was wild. Can we talk about
Amazing
the
red
annoyance,
herring.
please?
I need a car to
Now that
chase.
it's what
Yeah,
the
can we talk
fuck?
about Cam's obsession? Cam, it's a noosh, but no, it's Cam. Cam has been talking for months about, I have to chase these people down.
I want my babies. They're my babies. What
You
the
gotta
fuck
stop
was
calling them
that?
your babies.
What was the impetus of that?
Right. For I've talked about this some with my players, but not with you guys out here, which is that I used the Anointed. I used that whole plot point to set up for a future game, in which after the main story of Halley's children is told and complete, I can come back to it and just do some good old fashioned like 80s style superhero versus supervillain fights between like these people who just got intercepted this mysterious vials and got injected with them, and people who were the evil masterminds behind the vials of power and stuff. So I had to sort of push my players away from that a little bit. Be like, so what I said was, you can investigate these things, you can get into it. If your character wants to do that, you can, but those plot lines are not going to resolve in this game. So my players, thank you all for being so restrained. in doing so. No matter how much convincing it had to take to do that, I appreciate it because it'll be fun to come back to the world of Halley's, just to have some fun with it after the story is told.
So rad. It's very cool.
Seven's
You just
eye.
had.
Oh, sorry. Go
Go
ahead.
ahead. I was going to say,
No,
I just
no.
had to like emotionally sit on Cam.
I wanted to track. Hey, I was gonna. Oh my god, I had some wild
Some
harebrained.
fuck shit.
I was
The
like,
word you're looking
how
for
do
is
I get
fuck
a?
shit. You
How
had
the
some
fuck do I
fuck
get
shit
around
planned.
this? How do I make everybody forget about it? Like I got this power. I can like say, hey, like nobody ever knows this happened, but I just wanted to meet. No,
Can we just
yeah.
put in large block letters on the screen right now? Fuck shit.
Fuck shit. Mm-hmm.
Fuck
Shit.
shit.
Yeah.
I
Well, I
don't
mean,
think
okay.
Yeah.
So we had this conversation off screen, and like it's like this idea of like how do we view our eternity, right?
Mhm.
And Anush, I said he's like very like vampire coded. Like a lot of his theories about like living forever come from like the Anne Rice like kind of like aspect of like these beings trapped in immortality, and how do they like wrestle with the fact that they are not humans anymore, and that like they have to lose things over and over again, and they can either like drive themselves crazy with the thought of like trying to cling on to humanity or create something new. And like Anush has been like knowing that he is even more different than other like empowered people, has not settled down and lived in the community that has formed around him. Instead is like doesn't see that, only sees 10 steps ahead, only sees the end of things. If I don't have people around me, if I don't create my own like people that can stay with me to the end, I have nothing, even if I have everything around me. So the idea that there are people out there made from him, made like possibly having the ability to live forever like Anush does, is insanely enticing. But that was like his battle this season, was to see this eternity as a chance to like live in the moment and connect to who we are. So yeah. I want to meet my children.
You probably will. You can't avoid it.
Cameron
I'll be
can.
like,
I don't know if Sarah will let Anoush do it, but
Oh no.
Ida won't let Anoush do it.
Cameron
Ida
could
has
play in the one
already
shot.
said,
one of them isn't going to try to meet me. What?
"You're not their dad."
I am your dad.
They have
I'm the
real
mom.
parents.
No, they don't.
Real lives.
It's me
They
and
were
Jesus. Anoush and Jesus made them.
no
Them the
evil masterminds made
baddies.
them.
I'm very excited to see where they go.
Yeah, I'm so excited to see more of the Halliverse.
Yeah,
as
and
we're
it's
putting
not.
names on things.
Yeah, it's not just the Anointed now, because apparently there's a
It's
bunch of other ones too. You sneaky,
Yep.
beautiful
They
woman.
keep multiplying.
yeah.
Do they live forever?
I'll-
What is
They do
happening?
not. Canonically, they do not.
No.
They
Oh,
Interesting.
interesting.
they age like anybody else. All they get is
Oh,
power.
they're just powered up.
Yep.
Interesting.
Whoa.
It really helps the island populate, though. We probably have like a
I was
couple
gonna
mil.
say, like Eternus is gonna get real full real
I was gonna
fast.
say we gotta have like 20 plus mil now, right? 40-ish years. Even with just the empowered starting in university, that's gonna attract a lot of dissidents. Uh, and then opening it up to refugees,
Hmm.
population expansion, with aid of superpowered people being able to go completely vertical in the super city, right? I would imagine carbon fibers being used as a much more viable technology, carbon technology. So you're able to go higher and taller without worrying about engineering problems. Interesting,
Hmm.
interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Whoa.
I like it.
It's cool.
Yeah. Well, what else do we have to talk about? Anything, or are we satisfied?
Yeah.
The last thing I
All
want to say is I feel like Sarah picked Heaven's Eye because it was the absolute closest she could get to Japan.
I did not. I will say, my I love the Arecibo Observatory in Puerto Rico. I've always found it very fascinating and kind of creepy, but it's gone. It unfortunately was unable to stand the test of time, and it has been pretty much demolished. It fell. But there's an even bigger one that is in China. So I was like, oh, okay. And it had this cool name. And I was like, oh, yeah, I got to use that.
That is a dope name. That is a really dope name. I'm just messing. I figured it had something to do with either the telescope name or some ability it has or something. I just thought it
I'm
was funny.
excited to see our cricket overlords.
Yeah, it is the largest radio telescope on Earth. So
Yeah, that makes sense. Cool.
All right,
I mean,
Cam,
I
you were
question.
aggressively
My-
yelling.
My big aggressive question. We
Yeah.
saw an adjustment, an advancement Hathor made to his nanobots and his powers. What would everybody choose for theirs? And can we give Pagan laser eyes?
I would rather give him cold breath, but if we're gonna keep
Can we
going
do
down the
both?
line of
Yeah, how I thought
super
about
breath,
it. Ida
Mhm.
Ida would ask for invisibility from whoever had it in Challenger.
So you want Fillmore's power?
No. No, somebody in Challenger got didn't somebody become
visible, like
Oh no, they
to the
teleported.
light
they
spectrum.
teleport, never mind. Yeah, so yeah, I want invisibility.
Dope.
I got to be a spy, baby.
Yeah.
I think the only other thing that Hathor wants besides that is I've always like this is my and this is David, please do me a favor. I've been obsessed with this like idea of the like the ever-changing weapon, right? And I've like tried to fit this in like every game, and now we have nanotechnology. And I like the idea of like I don't want it doesn't need to shoot lasers or doesn't need whatever, but it can turn into like an axe or a quarterstaff or like a whatever kind of thing he needs. And I would just really like that to be his little piece.
Yeah, for sure. That's not a
Can we
problem.
invent hammer space, please?
Little sonic screwdriver, if you will.
Yeah.
What does Yelena want?
Well, here's the thing. I was really struggling because we were. There's always the possibility that we're going to miss the Starfall, which in many a case we did this season.
Mhm.
So I didn't really know what I wanted to give Yelena as a power up. So I think I'm kind of in the same boat. Like, I don't know what I would want her adjustments to be for whatever she can tweak with her with the nano bot ability.
Mhm.
I had considered giving her healing at some point, just because that's kind of what she is. What?
Check the back chat. Just look at the back chat.
No.
Your fucking husband. Hey guys, we're not gonna say what it was. You just need to know her fucking husband.
Interesting.
Mhm.
We'll talk about that later, David. Yeah, so I don't know what I would want her to do. At the genesis of her creation, she was based on a Slavic goddess, Devena, who is very like very nature oriented, very much how she is, like vegetation and hunting, and very much a goddess of the forest, which I'm not going to get too much into it, but there's some lore where she's a seasonal goddess. So through like spring, summer, she is Devena, but through fall and winter, she is a goddess Morena, which is a goddess of death and decay and like the changing of seasons. So there's kind of always a part of me that was like, maybe I'll give her a flip side, but I think that would have to be an emotional trigger. Like, she would have to need a reason to want to go to that darker side of herself. So I don't know. My answer is I don't know, and I gave you a lot of talking about not knowing.
No, that's
Yeah, no, I like that. No,
Yeah.
because look, Eli wants Ida to have invisibility. Ida doesn't think they deserve anything additional ever because they abandoned their family. So
Whoa.
they're like, I wasn't not even there. It wasn't that I was on the ground. I was in California. So yeah, they've got
You're
feelings about
good.
that.
You're okay. No, I also don't think I know what like Anoush would. I like part of me thinks that him fiddling around would result in like an accidental thing to happen. Like I think he might like I had the thought of like accidentally like turning off like an ability to interact with other people's powers and giving him like what Fillmore had. Uh or I also have thought of him duplicating himself because I think that would be fun if he could like to see an Anoush operating on another Anoush.
I guess you can talk to Halfthor about that.
But I also love the ability to like enhance other people's powers. So like to like invert all of my powers to like also have the ability to like have them affect other people, like let other people switch powers or like give my +1 to somebody like Yelena does bless. So
I don't know if this was because of Anoush's gifts and how he used it, or because of Josh. Is Josh's power untakeable?
Yes, Josh's
yeah.
power is unbreakable.
So I couldn't remember because I remember it happening in game, and I was like, "Oh wow, that's amazing." And then I was like, "Oh wait," or was that because Anoush had already done it?
No, it's because his power is inspecific. It's not
Got it.
at best the last power that he used could be taken because that would be possible. But generally speaking, no.
Oh, so
Love
you
it.
can like cycle through. Okay, interesting.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's right. Good
Well,
story, Sarah.
thank you. Thank you all for doing this with me. I could not ask for a better group to sort of ask these questions with me and go through this beautiful story that we're making. I'd also like to thank our audience because you're why we make it, and we love to share it with you. So, any last things to say before we shut down?
Hey Hathor, you can't die until 2066 because we got to have a big 1,000 year anniversary of our birth for Hastings.
100%.
Oh,
Second
that'd be
thing,
cute.
next week on Streaming Rainbow, Mythos of War Journey Through the Pyrenees. Second
Woo!
installment in an
Whoa.
ongoing saga myself and Lux have undertaken. So if you really enjoyed Sophia, or if you like Eldritch Horror and more of these moral philosophical questions being presented, but probably with a little bit less of an inspiring ending, come check us out. We do a lot of just a lot of horror, but as well as psychological stuff. So check us out starting next week, and we'll be running for about 5 weeks. And
Yeah. As always, stay tuned to Inferno. We're getting close to by now. We're getting close to the end of Kanto 2. So about
Whoa.
to get through the first level of hell.
Nice.
So
yikes. Will they? Won't they?
exciting.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Yeah. Love it.
Thank
Love
you,
you guys.
everyone. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next Tuesday.
Bye.
Bye.